Hello, welcome to this video on coroutines and timers. So in this video we're going to look at how to use coroutines to add a delay, and also we'll look at a design choice between using a basic timer versus using a coroutine. So let's jump into it. Now currently we have no way to actually see the game over text. If we made it active here, we have no way to see this game over text when the game ends, because as soon as the game ends, we're going to load this scene. And so what it would be nice to do is add a delay between setting the game over text active and actually loading the main menu scene again. So let's say we add a delay of 2 seconds. Let's see how we can do that with a coroutine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go instead of putting all of this, instead of putting the load scene code in the same function here as the on game over, let's make a new function called first of all, let's talk about the return type. So the return type of a function that we're going to use as a coroutine needs to be I_enumerator. So it's going to be private I_enumerator. Notice I coming up again. That means interface, just in case you're curious. So private I_enumerator, and then here we will call this load scene after delay. Okay, so from this private I_enumerator load scene after delay, we will call this function to load the scene. Okay, and maybe I'll just call this load main menu after delay just to make it very clear. This is going to load the main menu. And we will do this line of code to load the scene after a delay of a certain time. So if I go yield return new wait for seconds, this is just the and then we'll put the number of seconds here, right? This is just the format that coroutines use. So in a method that returns an I_enumerator, we're going to put yield return new wait for seconds with the number of seconds here, and then we will load the scene. So how we actually use this function is after a delay of 2 seconds. I guess it's after we set this game object false and set this game object true, we will start a coroutine. So that's a mono behavior method here. Start coroutine, open up a parenthesis, and now we put this function call inside of that as an argument here to start coroutine. So take this function call, copy that, and paste that inside. So with these 2 parentheses here, and put a semicolon after. Okay, so that's all we need here, right? What this line does is it delays for 2 seconds. So it's going to allow the rest of the game to continue running while we wait for 2 seconds here, and then we load the scene. Let's see if that works. So we should wait 2 seconds. We'll make sure our game over text starts disabled or not active. We'll try to lose. Game over. And then we load the main menu. So that worked perfectly. So that's a coroutine. Let's just talk a little bit about another way we could do this instead of having a coroutine. So coroutine is one way to do it. Another way would be to have just a regular timer. So to make a regular timer work, we just take a float variable. So let's say private float timer. And we also have float max time. Okay, and so we're going to start timer at 0. We're going to count up to max time, and we're also going to need to have a Boolean, private bool timer running. So there's these 3 variables that we'll use to control the timer, and every frame we're going to add to the timer here. And as soon as timer reaches max time, we'll do something. So to see how that works, Okay, let's go to the update function. So we'll have to write update here. Okay, and first of all, we'll need to know if the timer is running. So in on game over here, we're going to say, we'll comment out the coroutine for now. Okay, we're going to say timer running equals true. And we should set some of these values by default in awake. So I go up to awake, we say timer equals 0 and timer running equals false. So the timer is not running by default. That's awake. But here, when we want the game to end, we set the timer running to true, and let's set max time equal to 2. So that's the number of seconds that we want to wait here. And in update, we'll say, and it doesn't hurt here to say timer equals 0 as well, just to make sure that's reset to 0. Okay, and in update, we'll say if timer running. So here, if the timer is running, then we take the timer and we increase it by time.delta time. So this is the time between frames. So after 3 frames, it'll increase by time.delta time each time. Maybe after 30 frames, it might be about 1 second. But that depends on the frame rate. But here we'll just end up with a timer increasing as time progresses. And now we say if timer is greater than max time. So if we reached 2 seconds with the timer, then we'll want to do something, right? So then here we'll want to, maybe I'll say load main menu. So this is not going to be after a delay. It's just going to be main menu. And so we have to define this function. And here I would just take the scene manager.load scene and load the scene in load main menu. So the only difference between these two functions is that this load main menu after delay, right, is an IEnumerator. It returns an IEnumerator rather, and it has this yield return new wait for seconds in it. Whereas load main menu just loads it directly. And so the delay is built into this update function here. We have our timer that we manually set. We have well, these variables that we worked with that just control the timer. And so we can test this to make sure it works, right? So in on game over, this should be using our manual timer. Let's make sure that works. Okay, we'll make sure the game ends about 2 seconds. Right, to the main menu, so that also works. So there's 2 ways to set up the timer here, one with a coroutine, one just with a regular timer. Now this call and update, it's not really clear what this does, so I could rename this timer differently. I could call this end game timer. I could call this end game timer running, kind of delay time before loading scene. I could rename some of these variables, but personally I think the coroutine is actually a little cleaner. So if I'll get rid of this code, so make sure you pause the video if you want to see how this manual timer works here. Right, and there's awake, and the variables up here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them, because I'm actually going to stick with the coroutine here. It's actually a little cleaner. Okay, and this is all we need now. So I got rid of all of our new code. There's the coroutine. But there are some times when having a manual timer can be helpful. It may be just a little bit more clear how the code works sometimes there as well. So here's the coroutine. I will offer to you a challenge that has 2 parts to it. So the first part is to do what we've done in the video here. So make the main menu scene load 2 seconds after the player loses. And then once you have that working, also go and see if you can make the player start moving 3 seconds after the game starts in the playing scene. So eventually we're going to be switching from the main menu to the scene, to the playing scene. And it would be nice if there wasn't kind of an immediate, you have to start going right away, if there was a bit of a countdown. So make the delay happen for 3 seconds and also add a UI countdown. So you might need to be clever in how you actually make sure that after each second the UI updates. But I'll leave that to you as a challenge. I think you can do it. We will do it together shortly after you pause the video and give it a try. All right, good job trying the challenge. That one was a little tricky, so let's see how you did. So first of all, for loading the main menu, well, we've already got this working, but one little quality update we can make here is that currently the 2 is hard-coded, right? This is the number of seconds to wait after the delay, and whenever you just hard-code a number in there, it's never a good practice. It can lead to some bugs and some confusing code in the future. So our comments here help, right? Delays for 2 seconds, load the main menu scene, shows us that this 1 is the main menu. Let's actually take these 2 numbers out, and we'll put them at the very top, and we'll make them constants. So to make a number a constant, well, there are some official ways to do it, right? So I could write private const, and take this 2 second delay, right? I could say float, and then usually a variable for a constant you put in all caps. I'll say end game delay, and then here you have to actually set the number unless you have a constructor, and we don't have those in Unity here, not in mono behaviors. So we'll just say const equals 2, right? And this end game delay now is a variable that can't be changed. It's actually a constant. And so if you copy that, so again, this is the naming convention for constants with semicolon, underscores between each word and all the letters in capital letters. Okay, take that 2 and we can put that here instead of the 2 directly being coded in there. So if I want to change the end game delay, I go up to the top and here's a number I can change here. Right, and same here for loading the main menu scene. I can actually change that to be a private const int, say main menu index, main menu scene index. A bit long, but it's very clear what it is. And I can copy that main menu scene index. I can put it right here. Okay, so that's one way to make our code a little cleaner. So the constants are at the top here. And one way, another way that we can clean this up a little bit is instead of having end game delay being right in this function where we have to change it here, well, let's make sure we don't have to touch this function anymore, and we can just work with on game over. And we can put the delay in here. So we can define our custom method here with a parameter. We can call it int, or rather float end game delay. Right, and put end game delay in this wait for seconds. And so now whatever number is passed in as a parameter here, as an argument here, whatever number is passed in there, well, that's end game delay, and it gets passed to this wait for seconds. And then here, this end game delay, I can put a 2 there, right? So 2 is now end game delay, right? And that gets past the wait for seconds. Or I can just put our constant from before, end game delay there. And that constant now, right, is 2. That gets passed into this load main menu after delay, and it'll get passed to wait for seconds. That's one way to clean up our code a little bit. But that's just some little quality things for the main menu scene loading. Let's see how we actually make the player delay to start moving after 3 seconds. So let's go to movement. This is maybe the most obvious place to start, and we might want to change this later. But let's go to movement, and let's figure out where we're going to want to actually start counting down so that we don't move right away. So in awake, we're going to already have forward speed and horizontal speed. Those are already going to be set in the inspector. And so what I might want to do is just set my forward speed and horizontal speed to 0 temporarily, and then be able to have a countdown play, And then when the countdown ends, I can make the player start moving forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more fields here. Just go private float original forward speed, and I'll copy that and I'll make this original horizontal speed as well. Okay, so those two are going to store whatever are put in the inspector at the beginning of the game. And in awake, I'll say original forward speed. Well, this one's horizontal. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for the forward speed. Okay, so we've stored our original values. And now we can actually say forward speed is equal to 0 and horizontal speed is equal to 0. Okay, so these two values are now going to be 0, so we don't need to worry about our player moving at all. The animation is still playing. We can clean that up too later. But now we don't need to worry about those two moving our player. And now we can have some sort of coroutine get started. So I think awake would be a decent place to put this. I don't see why we wouldn't put it in awake, where we're going to go start coroutine, and we'll have some delay start, and we'll put the time that we want to delay by in there. So this function is not defined yet, so we'll have to define that. But let's define it with an argument too. So we'll say 3 seconds, right? And we can even put up here. You know, I'm going to leave it as 3 actually. Actually, I won't even put a 3 in. We'll just make sure that we always count by 3. So let's define this delay start. Okay, I'll come down to the bottom here. Go private enumerator delay start. Okay, now we do need a yield return somewhere. So you go yield return wait, yield return new, wait 4 seconds. We'll put a 3 in there. So we're always going to wait by 3 seconds. So that's okay to have this number hard coded if it's always going to be 3. But maybe I just say delay start 3 seconds. Maybe make it clear. You can decide if you need that or not, but I'll put it. Delay start 3 seconds. Okay, and at the end of delay start 3 seconds, now we can say finally the forward speed is equal to the original forward speed. And same for horizontal here. Okay, let's see if that works. It may not be more complicated than that, to just make sure that we delay for 3 seconds before we start. So let's try that. Okay, so there's no movement and there's movement. So we successfully delayed our start, and the rest of the game should hopefully still work. We'll make sure we go back to the main menu. Okay, awesome. Okay, so this is delaying, and now the tricky part of this challenge is how do we actually add a countdown saying 3, 2, 1 before the game starts. So one thing to notice is that here we're in the movement script, right? And so this movement script isn't necessarily the place where we would expect to be controlling a UI countdown. I think it might make sense to actually make another script that controls the UI countdown. And so you're going to say, oh no, not another script. Well, in the end, we're going to have tons and tons of small scripts that control different things. And if we organize them well, it actually allows our project to grow and actually to stay manageable as we keep working on it. So let's make a new script, and we'll call it the countdown, kind of the start countdown, something like that. Okay, and let's go to start countdown, and we need to find somewhere to put that in the game. Maybe on a canvas element. We'll figure out where to put that in a second. First of all, from the movement script here, we're just starting all this logic right away. It would be nice if this logic actually was responding to an event that was fired somewhere else. So let's go to the game manager. Let's actually fire an event in game manager when the game starts. So I'm going to go make a public event action on game or on countdown start. Okay, so there's an event called on countdown start, and we want to fire this event. Let's go to awake. We want to fire this event when the countdown should start. And so here's where we're going to fire it in awake. Right, in game manager, when the countdown starts, we'll invoke this event. Okay, so in the awake method of the game manager, we have on countdown start being invoked. And now who would like to know that the countdown has started? Well, one class that would like to know is this movement script, this movement component. They would like to know that the countdown has started, so they can say, okay, let's capture these values like we've done already. Let's store these original forward speeds and original horizontal speeds, and then we can wait for the countdown to finish. And so what we're going to do is get a reference to the game manager in the movement script. So we have our game manager reference here, and in so we have that reference. Now in onEnable, let's subscribe to this game manager's event. Dot on countdown start. Okay, so as before, we can do plus equals, and we can accept the suggestion for this game manager method. Okay, I'm going to take this this method that's subscribed to this on countdown start. I'm going to cut it and just put it in the same place as this on game over, just so we have our response methods in the same place. And I might actually take both of those and put those at the very bottom, just so they're together. Okay, and so now on countdown start, what we'd like to do is take our speed here. Let's take our speed, and we will just store it here in original forward speed and original horizontal speed, and then we can keep forward speed and horizontal speed, or we can set those to 0. So this is when we're starting the countdown. Okay, and the movement script is no longer going to be responsible for starting this coroutine to delay 3 seconds. Let me cut that line out. And I'm actually going to put that in this awake method here in game manager. So we'll start a coroutine to delay start 3 seconds. Now let's get the actual definition for delay start 3 seconds from movement. We'll cut that out and put it back in game manager. Okay, there's another IEnumerator, rate delay start 3 seconds. And here this forward speed setting that doesn't make sense here, but we'll leave it for now. Okay, that's delay start 3 seconds. Okay, and we'll just make sure the movement script is finished off here. So after we've delayed 3 seconds, what we're going to want to do is invoke another event. So we'll need to have our event defined here. We'll say public event, and I like this name, on countdown finish. Okay, and after 3 seconds, we'll go on countdown finish dot invoke. Okay, so on countdown finish dot invoke is going to fire this event. Now in the movement script, we can listen to game manager dot on countdown finish. We go plus equals. I like the suggestion. Okay, let's take this method that it's given us, this private method, and put it at the bottom. So there's on countdown start. Here's on countdown finish. And we'll take this original speed and forward speed code, and we'll put that in the movement script in this on countdown finish. So notice the movement script is entirely concerned. Well, first of all, let's let's unsubscribe from these events, so make sure it's minus equals. Okay, but notice that this movement script is entirely concerned with the movement, right? We are setting the forward and original, we're setting the forward and horizontal speeds, keeping track of the original speeds, right? We have in on game over, we're just setting the speeds. In on countdown start, we're just setting the speeds. In on countdown finish, we're just setting the speeds, right? And game manager now is the one who is managing this event about when the countdown starts, when the countdown finishes. Okay, so we haven't actually started looking at the actual countdown text, and I'm realizing now that we won't necessarily need this start countdown script we made before. You can see the preview, it's just an empty script still, so I'll just delete that script. We won't need the start countdown. Okay, and what we'll do in the game manager is instead of waiting for 3 seconds, let's wait for 1 second 3 times. So I can actually put a yield return new wait for seconds 1, 1, and 1 there. And in between each of these, I can modify some of the actual text of a countdown. So let's get a reference to serialized field private. This is going to be text mesh pro UGUI. And this one's going to be called countdown number text. Okay, and we'll need to actually import TM Pro, so using TM Pro. Okay, and we'll need to make a countdown number text as well. So in the canvas, let's right click and go to UI text, and we'll call this countdown text. Okay, we'll make sure it's centered, and we'll make it kind of big just for fun. No, that's not big. Make it nice and big like that, and we'll see if one number is in it, what it looks like. That looks okay. We'll make it a little higher. Okay, there's our countdown. So there's our countdown number text. Now I guess we can make sure we actually drag that into the game manager. So we're looking for a countdown number text here. We'll drag game manager in there. No, we'll drag the countdown text in there. And we can start it disabled. Or that's the game manager. We'll start the countdown text set not active. Okay, so when we delay start 3 seconds, we might want to take the countdown number text dot game object dot set active. We want to set it true so that the countdown number text is actually active. And at the very end, we can take this countdown number text and set active false. Okay, and after every second, let's update the text. So at the very beginning, I guess we'll want to say countdown number text dot text is equal to just a 3. Okay, then we'll wait a second, and then we'll change it to a 2. Then we'll wait a second, then we'll change it to a 1. Then we'll wait a second, and then I guess we could probably set it to something like go or something. And we might want go to stay there, but we probably want to invoke the finish right away. So we'll say, okay, the countdown is finished. And we'll say go, and maybe we'll wait for another half a second. And this is giving us an error because 0.5 is a double. Make sure you put F at the end for a float. That's just a different type of number. Just the F goes at the end of a decimal number to make it a float. And then we'll set this game object false. So this is one way to do it. Now, really, I would like to separate this countdown number text from the game manager more, and I'd like to have that other script we were working on before. But I think this illustrates the point. We could actually have an event that we fire every second, though, that says update the text. But for now, we'll leave it like this, and we'll see if this works. Sometimes it's better to just get code working and then optimize it later. So Let's go and see if this is going to work for the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that worked, but our movement wasn't stopped. So let's go see why our movement wasn't stopped there. So we should have on countdown start invoke. Let's see, movement on countdown start, on countdown start. Okay, let's make sure that this function, if I right click, go to definition, make sure this function is actually being called. So let's put a debug.log, and we'll say in on countdown start in movement. We'll see if that function is actually being run. Okay, do I see anything? Okay, there's no message about being in countdown start in movement. Let's see what the errors are here. So there's a null reference in player. And sure enough, our movement script doesn't know who the game manager is. So we'll just make sure we take our game manager and drop it in the movement script for the player. And silly errors like that sometimes cost us a bit of time when we're trying to figure out what they are. But now, okay, we are still moving. Okay, and we still don't have that being printed, so that wasn't the issue, I guess. Okay, and we actually have a very exciting error on our hands. So let's see if we can get to the bottom of what's going on here. So game manager is invoking this event called on countdown start in its awake method. Okay, so on countdown start gets invoked. Now who's listening? Well, the movement script subscribes to on countdown start in its on enable method. And so on enable happens after awake. So first, game manager invokes this event, and movement script is not listening. And then we enable the movement script, and we subscribe to on countdown start. Excellent, well done. And now this on countdown start event is never going to get invoked again because it was already invoked in game manager's awake. So we need to make sure that we're actually invoking this on countdown start event late enough that everyone who wants to listen has already subscribed. And so this is where the order of awake, on enable, and start really comes into play. So this code here should really be in start, because start happens after on enable. So let's go down here to start, and we'll take this stuff from awake in game manager, get rid of awake if we don't need it anymore, and let's run that in start. Okay, let's see if that fixes our issues here. Okay, it's reloaded. Let's press play. And thankfully we are not moving, and then we start moving. Awesome. That looks really great. So we're very happy we got that bug worked out, and I'm very happy we found the bug. So it's a good bug to enable encounter to really understand the order of awake, on enable, and start. Okay, so well done getting this far. That was a bit of a tricky challenge, but I knew you could do it. Okay, let's leave this video here. I'll give you a small challenge if you want to make your player start animating only after the game starts. But for now, we'll leave it there, and we'll see you in the next video.